Saha Veeryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Supreme Being protect us both, the teacher and the disciple, by revealing to us the true nature of knowledge. May the Supreme Being protect us both, the teacher and the disciple, by revealing to us the application of the knowledge in everyday life. May we both jointly be engaged in this enterprise of the acquisition of knowledge and wisdom. May the knowledge and wisdom that we acquire be effective and illuminative, and may there be no disharmony between us. Om, peace, peace, peace. My very respectful salutations to Swami Gautamananda Ji, whose affection I had enjoyed for decades on end and will continue to enjoy till the end of my life. It has been a great source of inspiration, his smiling face and the enthusiasm which he brings to bear upon, even to listen to people who are much younger than him. That's the kind of feeling that he has towards exposing himself to noble ideas. And Atmapriyananda Ji, who has been holding on for decades to keep the activities of the Vivekananda Study Circle going, and the other Swamis present here, and the director of this institute, Dr. Bhaskar Ramamurthy, who is sitting in the audience and listening. Not many directors usually do that. You know, it's not easy for administrators to be not very restless because they have so many things to do, and that continuously keeps engaging their attention. That shows the deep and abiding interest and support that the Vivekananda Study Circle people are fortunate to get from the administration of this institute. It is not a small thing. When the Raja approves of certain things, the Prajas always feel very supported and happy. So I am happy for that. I congratulate the IIT Madras. Just on a personal note, you know how the whole thing started? When we were students in Madras, I was a student in the Madras University, earlier Presidency College Madras, and our campus used to be situated in what is known as the Alagappa Chettiar College of Technology campus here. We had a department of theoretical physics. Some of you must have heard about Professor Radhani Ramakrishnan, who was the father figure in those days. He was a student of Homi Bhabha, who started this entire movement of theoretical physics in this part of the country. And he was the person who set up the Institute of Mathematical Sciences in Chennai, now which is a DAE Institute. And his students were everywhere. One of his students was Professor E.M. Matthews, who was heading the theoretical physics department in the University of Madras. We used to come to IIT Madras Library very, very often at that time. There was an old Swami, not very old at that time, now old. He is a non-Nigerian monk, alive and active, who is the head of the New York Vedanta Society in USA. The first Vedanta Society started by Swami Vivekananda in America. His name is Swami Tathagatananda Ji. He used to come to IIT Madras in the 70s, and we were students. We used to accompany him to the IIT. Every week we used to have regular classes at that time. Of course, the place which he chose, and perhaps only place available at that time, I don't know, was under the tree. So we used to select some tree somewhere and then group around, and then he was a very fiery speaker, and he used to inspire the boys. We also used to help him in some Tamil translation work at that time. That was how the whole thing started. But after he left, I think for some time, the whole thing became defunct for some reason. And again it was revived, and it has become the baby of the editors of Vedanta Kesari in Chennai. I hope the thing will continue. That's on a very personal note. Now the topic of discussion is the science of inner man. The word science is now everywhere. Unless you add the word science to something, or engineering, or technology to something, it doesn't give the credibility. So now even the people who are into humanities and arts, they always add this word, social science, political science. So you add a word science everywhere, and engineering is also added. Now the latest buzzword is inner engineering. They don't say inner science. So inner engineering, inner technology. This is not a very new word to Indian culture and philosophy and civilization. We had two very important words. One is called Vidya, the other is called Yoga. Yoga is now a buzzword everywhere. We have $1 billion industry of the yoga everywhere. Whatever it means, the idea is that yoga is catching up. Yoga is specifically doing something, as our Honorable Director just now mentioned, and Vidya is particularly learning something theoretically. So Vidya is a science and yoga is a technology. So Vidya and yoga together form the science and technology of spirit. Those of you who are exposed to the Bhagavad Gita, remember the colophon. You know what's a colophon? Colophon is a statement which occurs at the end of each chapter of a book. So it says, for example, the second chapter, it's called the Sankhya Yoga. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambade Sankhya Yogo Nama Dvidiyodhyaya. In the third chapter it will be Karma Yogo Nama Tridiyodhyaya and so on. So the three important phrases that you pick up from there. One is Brahma Vidyayam. The whole thing is in Saptami, seventh case. In Brahma Vidya, which is what? Yoga Shastra, in Yoga Shastra. So the Bhagavad Gita is considered to be both the science of Brahman, the spirit, as well as the technology of Brahman. Science and technology together form the content of the Bhagavad Gita. And it is also a kind of dialogue between God and man. We don't know whether God speaks to man, but man, of course, in moments of distress and crisis goes and cries to God and likes to believe God responds and smiles at you. Krishna Arjuna Sambade. Krishna is the friend of man, Narasakha he is called. Or the Sanskrit words are so beautiful. We don't say God is sitting somewhere and blessing you. He is your very intimate friend. Narasakha, Narayana, and Nara is a human person who is struggling, confused, looking for solution, and therefore goes and cries to the Narasakha, and the Narasakha teaches Nara. That is the idea. In the Kathopanishad, as I just now mentioned, ends by saying that this great teaching was imparted to Nachiketa, the small boy, the great inquirer, the spiritual seeker, by the Brahmavidya Acharya, the god of death, Yama, and having absorbed this teaching, having practiced it, Nachiketa went beyond death, became immortal. And anybody else who will follow this teaching in exactly the same way as Nachiketa himself will also attain to the same result. That is the challenge of Indian spiritual wisdom. It does not say that somebody realized it somewhere and you and I cannot do it now because situations and conditions have changed. No. If somebody has realized this truth somewhere in his life at some time, anybody else should be able to realize the same truth anywhere at any time. If this does not happen, then it is not a science. The fundamental characteristic of science, it is replicability, and it is universality. You don't say science belongs to a particular class, particular country, particular time. You don't say the Raman effect is a Hindu or Indian effect because Raman was born in India and discovered this truth in India. You don't say Newton's laws of motion belong to UK and it's a Christian effect. You don't say Einstein's relativity is a Jewish effect, it was German. But you do say that this is a property, the intellectual property of the entire humanity. In India, we did not have the intellectual property rights. There is no copyright in anything. If you copy from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not going to challenge you, why did you copy my words? Go ahead. Knowledge is free. The idea, most of you know, about the Linux and the Microsoft tussle. The whole movement started by saying, somebody said, why should these people monopolize knowledge? Why should there be copyright? Let us have a copyleft. The copyleft was the Linux, which said the source code should be free and everybody should have access to it. Don't monopolize knowledge. In India, knowledge was never monopolized. It was given free to everybody to download in your heart, provided you have the requisite capacity to be able to download. What you need is internet connectivity. 24/7 is possible. And I just now heard the good news, you have 24/7 snacks, just now inaugurated. So you have 24/7 food for the stomach. So you should also have 24/7 food for the intellect and for the soul. So 24/7 broadband connectivity, if possible infinite broadband connectivity, and this is called in our scriptures, in Upanishads and Gita, as yukta. Yoga, yukta, these come from the word yuj dhatu. Yuj means to connect. So this connectivity which is being spoken of now in the internet is exactly what yoga really means. And continuous, unbroken connectivity is called satata yukta. The Gita speaks about satata yukta. It also speaks about nitya yukta. Always stay connected. You can see advertisements everywhere. Duniya mukhi mein. Stay connected. The BSNL advertisement everywhere. This is exactly what Bhagavan Sri Krishna said in the Gita. Stay connected with whom? Be connected with me. Satata yuktaye bhaktaspam pariyupasate and so on. And then he says, who is the greatest yogi? Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yoma same yukta tamo mataha. He is the greatest of connected beings because he is always connected to me. So to be able to connect to an inner source of strength is what is called yoga. Now, to be able to download all these great ideas, even though connectivity is possible, you need to know the password. And the password is what is called the mantra. Many people say, what is so great about the mantra? Why should the mantra not be revealed to anybody? Why is so secret about it? Would you tell your password to anybody? Any of you here? The password is mine. Not that you want to keep it secret, but there is something important about having my password so that I can download. So this is the mantra through which you get into the internet and download. The idea being, there is nothing personal in your being except when you become universal. This is a very important idea, the science of inner man. The inner man has so many dimensions. Man, of course, includes woman also. When Swami Vivekananda talked about the man making education, the women are very scared. Why not? You can't say women making. Miss Josephine MacLeod, a very dear disciple of Swami Vivekananda, who chose to call herself a friend of Vivekananda, not a disciple, once said, Swami Vivekananda emphasized man-making education, man-making theories. He wanted from every man a quality called manliness, and from every woman a similar quality for which there is no word. You can't call it womanliness. And you can't expect manliness from a woman. So what is the word by which you talk about it? That means the message of strength. And where does strength come from? A human personality has been analyzed very thoroughly in our ancient scriptures. Why they were interested in the human being was because we are interested in everything else outside except we ourselves. So I am the center of all my learning and the center of all my activity and the center of all that I do. I want to know everything outside of me, the world outside, the nature outside, through science, through technology, through physics and chemistry, or through arts and social sciences, humanities, fine arts, 100,000 different kinds of vidyas, sciences. I want to study the external universe. But who is the person who is studying all this? Is he important or no? If you say, I don't care what happens to the person who studies, I want to study that. So unless you sustain yourself healthy and strong and sane, you can't study anything. You have heard of Abdul Salam, the famous Pakistani Nobel laureate, who unified the three forces of nature, the strong, weak and the electromagnetic. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for it, along with Weinberg and Glashow. In an international conference, it is said, Abdul Salam was suddenly missing. People were looking for him. Where did he go? He emerged from a corner after having performed his usual routine namaz, the prayers. People looked askance. Salam, you, being a physicist and a Nobel Prize winner at that, believe in all this? Abdul Salam smiled and said, Abdul Salam is a scientist who does physics. The physicist Abdul Salam has to be sustained by something so that he can do physics. Who sustains Abdul Salam? Abdul Salam has to be sustained as a human being first, as a sane, good human being to be able to do physics. This is what sustains me. The idea is, unless the person who is studying everything, who is researching into everything, who is trying to understand the workings of nature and so on, that person himself is healthy, strong, sane, keen, science cannot progress. Nothing can progress. So who keeps him or her going? This was the question which was asked long, long ago in ancient India. As I said, the Vidya is a science. They began with what is known as the Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is the consciousness which pervades everywhere. Why did they begin with that? The moment you open your eyes as a child, you look at the world outside. You start crying. You sense the world. How do you know the world exists? I see the world outside. Suppose you can't see, you are blind, born. No, I hear of so many sounds outside. Suppose you can't hear, blind and deaf, how do you know the world exists outside? Oh, I can touch and feel. Suppose your tactile nerves have gone wrong and you can't feel any touch, sensation of touch, what do? I can smell. Suppose your smell is also gone, then I can taste. Suppose you can't taste anymore, how do you know the world exists outside? You can never know that the world is outside. So which means the existence of the world is so fragile, so flimsy, so stupid the world is outside, you can't know it except through your senses. If the five senses go, for you there is no world at all. Which is what happens to you when you deeply are asleep. So you don't know the world exists outside. So the existence of the world depends upon the input from the five senses. So the five senses are absent, the world outside does not exist at all. So this world outside which is being experienced by me through what is known as Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa and Gandha, by touch, by smell, by vision, by hearing. This outside world which is spreading outside of me, I constantly study this through the instrumentality of the five senses. How do I know that my senses are not giving me wrong inputs? Oh, can I be absolutely sure of that? I can't be. Because my senses could be defective. And therefore, the existence of the world has to be certified by me to say that the world exists outside. The world does not come and tell me I exist here. Has anybody ever experienced the world coming and telling you that? I say to the world, you exist here. I'll give you a simple example. In the mornings, all of us are terribly busy getting ready for the classes, getting ready for teaching, for your work and so on. We usually misplace something and then can't find where it is. You misplace your pen, you misplace your mobile phones, your bag, and you want to take your paper for presentation and you can't place the paper. Where did I keep it? You shouted at everybody. We normally shout at others for our mistakes. That's the human psychology. So where did it go? Where did it go? This is Act 1, Scene 1. Let us go to Act 1, Scene 2. There's a huge function somewhere in a temple, and hundreds of thousands of people have come. And children, women, parents have taken the kids. Suddenly the kid has slipped away and the mother is crying, where did my kid go? And they say, hey Shyam, where did you go? From somewhere the Shyam shouts, Mom, I'm here. The paper which you are looking for did not say, I am here, find me here. It doesn't say that. But the little child says, I am here. What is the difference? This child has the capacity to announce himself. And this paper, however noble, this pen drive and the paper and the cassette and the computer, however powerful it may be, can't announce itself saying that I am here. I have to certify to the existence of that inanimate object which is called Jada. And the person who announces himself is called a Chaitanya or a Chaitanya. A Chaitanya object is capable of self-awareness and announcing his existence himself, independent of somebody else's certification. I don't need the certification from all of you to realize that I exist here and I'm talking to you. But this chair needs a certification from me, the Chaitanya, to say that it exists here. Which means Chaitanya's existence is a fundamental existence. And Jada's existence is dependent existence. This is a very important point, very simple logical point. Any inanimate object, a Jada, has its existence dependent upon certification by a Chaitanya. A Chaitanya does not require certification from anybody. It is absolutely independent. So it is free. And therefore the ancient scripture said, you have to find out what is the nature of your own self. What is this remarkable person called the I, who can understand that I exist? You deny everything. The modern world of science and technology, all of your budding scientists and engineers from one of the most prestigious institutes in the world. I don't believe in religion and spirituality and all this. The Gurva-clad monk coming and sitting and giving lectures. I don't believe in God. Oh, okay, you don't believe in God. Do you believe this particle exists? No, I don't believe that particle exists unless it can be proved. The Higgs boson, for example. The big buzz everywhere. Higgs boson has been found. We are in the Boson-Einstein building. Just now we saw the guest house. So I was joking. This building is the Boson-Einstein guest house. The Bose-Einstein guest house. Whether boson will be available or dosan may be available. A micro dosa. Higgs boson, whether it actually exists, we don't know. I don't believe it exists. Oh, you don't believe that. What about the various galaxies and oh, I don't believe that they exist unless I can really be convinced about their existence by various experiments. I can go on saying I don't believe in this existence, I don't believe in that existence. Can any of you say, I don't believe I exist? Anybody? Suppose you say, no, sir, I say I don't exist. Who says I don't exist? I say, but who is the I which says I don't exist? There should be another I which denies this I. So I say I don't exist. There is another I which denies this I which says I exist. Who says that? There is another I which denies the I which denies this I which says I don't exist. You know the famous nursery rhyme, this is the house that Jack built. Long ago in schoolboys, this is the house that Jack built, this is the cat which chased the mouse, this is lived in the house that Jack built, etc. So you go on and on, you get into what is known as the anavastha dosha in Indian logic. In the Western logic, it's a regress ad infinitum. You go back and back and back, finally you find it can't end. So there's a fallacy, and therefore you can't say, I don't exist. You can't deny your own existence. And therefore, you come to a very simple, logical, rational, scientific conclusion that that undeniable, incontrovertible, irreducible entity called the I, that is everything. Call it God, call it Atman, call it Brahman, call it by any name. This I, which you can't really dispute, contradict, refute, that is the Supreme Spirit, that is the I. Everybody knows the I, all of us use the I. The American Psychologists Association long ago made a survey. You know, Americans are very fond of making surveys of everything. How many times did you sneeze in the morning? You can get a PhD on that very quickly. If you belong to some prestigious institute, the Harvard B School and so on, you create surveys of everything. Make a questionnaire and put it on the net, and then did you sneeze in the morning? Say yes, no. So they made a big survey. You know what was the survey about? What is the most used word in the English language? Most frequently used word in the English language. The answer is very simple. You can guess that. I. Everybody uses this word I hundreds of thousands of times in your life. Because you can't go without it. And when somebody knocks at the door, hey, who is that? Immediate reaction, now under again. I. Nobody will say his name. Who is the I? Then you say your name. So from the simple common experience, or scriptures have concluded that I is a very, very important name. And they say that I is the name of Atman, yourself. What is the name of the spirit? Brihadaranyaka says, the name of yourself, your Atman, your spirit is I. And the Brahman, which is consciousness pervading outside, why should you be interested in that? Because you are always interested in the outside world all the time. The moment you open your eyes, you see the outside world impinging upon you, and which you can't really deny as long as your senses give you inputs. So there's an undeniable, incontrovertible outside world which exists. And there's an inner I which always pops up, like the computer popping up. The moment you say something, the I pops up. So which you can't really deny and dispute. There are two things which impinge simultaneously upon you. One is the I within and the outside world outside. So these two constantly come to you. And then when you say there is something which is at the background of this I, you should also say there is something which is the back of all this universe which is spread outside. So they used two different names. This discovery of these great sages, the science of this discovery goes by simple experimentation and analysis of everyday ordinary experience. Do not think that our ancients concocted all this. They were the most rational people in the universe. extremely scientific and keen, and absolutely bold. They were not afraid of rejecting even God. Many of the darshanas, the Indian philosophy, don't accept God per se in the way in which we worship. In fact, some of the most powerful of the Advaitic texts say, who is that God present there? That God, if he is there, he is only part of my own self. The infinite ocean of consciousness which I am throws up certain waves called gods and universes and so on. I am the greatest person in this whole universe. So who do I worship? Suppose I bow down to a great man, I bow down to myself. Oh, Namo Mahyam in the Ashtavakra Samhita and so on. Very, very bold people they were. They were terribly unafraid of facing the truth. So what did they do? About finding out the science of the inner self, they, like a scientist, what does a scientist do? What does an engineer do? He goes to the laboratory experiments, collects the data. He bases his entire thesis on a particular set of data which he has collected. So what is experience? You take from daily experience. Daily you see, you touch, you smell, you hear. These are the various inputs from you get from the outside world. Then you ask the question, how is it that I am able to see? How is it that I am able to hear? I said, I hear, I taste and so on. And suddenly, when I go to a different mode of consciousness, I go to sleep. I throw up so many things inside of me. I see castles, I see horses and elephants. How can a big elephant be in this small body? But I do it every day. Free. People go for movies and television shows. God shows you television shows every day, free of cost. Go to sleep, and every day He throws up so many kinds of dreams. Now, in that state of consciousness, what you see very often contradicts what you see in the outside world. I'll give you an example. Suppose I'm very fond of soccer, football. You know, I come from a state which is crazy with football, Bengal. In Brazil and Argentina. It's a very important match tomorrow I have to play. And suddenly I realize that I have to practice very hard. So I go around and do practice, and while practicing I injure myself. There's a slight fracture in the leg, and the doctors say you can't play tomorrow. That very crucial match, I'm debarred from participating because of injury. So I cry, terribly upset. With a sling in my leg, I'm in the hospital. Act 1, Scene 1. Act 1, Scene 2. Suddenly in the hospital, everybody is asleep. I cry out, goal! People say, what has happened to you? No, I scored a goal. How did you score a goal? You have an injury in the leg, you have a fracture. How can you go? No, I got it in dream. Why did you say I did it? Who scored the goal? You tell me. It's a very simple question. See, how much scientific they have analyzed the whole thing. Who scored the goal? Did you score the goal? No, because I have a fracture in the leg. But I feel I scored the goal. How? In dream. How do you say you did it? The dream ego, which was the dreaming, he scored the goal, but not the waking ego, which is now with a fracture in his leg. So, but I feel I scored this goal. Then the doctor comes and then gives you an injection and you go to sleep. There is no goal at all, there is nobody. So your waking state experience is contradicted in dream, and both are contradicted in deep sleep. So which is real? It's a very big question. You can't wish away this question. You can say, Swami, don't ask us inconvenient questions. We have an exam tomorrow and we have to pass this and then we have to get a job. You can get all that. But don't wish away this question. The very simple question they have asked. You constantly revolve between these three states. There's a story about Janaka. Janaka, you know, was a great king who always used to discuss his very high sublime spiritual truths. All the way king, he used to invite so many scholars. And such wonderful debates used to take place. There's a great Upanishad called the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, which is a large part of it is devoted to debate on Brahman between Yajnavalkya, the great sage, and so many others. This Janaka Raja, suddenly, in his dream, woke up and said, started crying, started shouting. The enemy is coming, attacking me. Then I'm being throttled. Then his wife was there and everybody, all the ministers came and said, so what has happened? Then he goes, oh, it's a dream. Then he became sort of mad. Is that true or is this true? Is that true or is this true? Is that true or is this true? Went on asking this question. Nobody could satisfy him. I am seeing all of you now surrounding me and attending to me with great care. But just now I saw people were cutting my throat and then completely finishing me. I woke up. Which is the true reality? Which is the truth about it? Went on asking this question. Nobody could satisfy. Then a great sage called Ashtavakra came there. This is a story, of course. He said, "O king, what has happened to you? Is that true or is this true? Is that true or is this true?" Went on asking this. Then he said, "When you are throttled to death almost in dream, you were there at that time?" "Yes, of course they did it to me." "Now, if so many people are caring for you and attending you, are you here now?" "Yes." So that experience which you had in dream and that experience which you are having now, none of which is true, but you are true. Because you were there at that time and you are there even now. So the reality about you is neither the waking experience, nor the dream experience, nor the deep sleep experience, but the reality is you. The idea being that we have to find out what is it about ourselves. This may not interest all of you now, but a time will come when you will ask the question, who is doing all this? Just now, Honorable Director was telling you, you can go and participate in the seva activities of the Ramakrishna Math and the Ramakrishna Mission, not for helping them, but to help your own beings. We do a lot of work, but we don't ask the question, what does work do to me? Others may be helped. Swami Gautamanji just now mentioned, Atmaro Moksha and Jagathita. You help yourself by doing help to others. It is not that the world is going to be helped by you. So the Vedanta, the Upanishad seers ask this question, who is the I who is experiencing all this? What is the source of this? This question is very peculiar. Every day we use this word I constantly, hundreds of times. Suppose you ask, who is this I? Yes, who is this I? How are you? Oh, I am not well. What has happened to you? I have a terrible headache. I have a stomach ache. I have a backache. People have all kinds of aches. When you grow older, you will feel aches everywhere. You have a stomach ache. Your stomach is not well, but you are well. What did happen? What happened at that time? I identify myself with the stomach temporarily and say, I am not well. How are you? Oh, I am not very well. Why? That fellow came and insulted me. It is so bad about it. In the presence of everybody, my image is shattered. Your mind is not well and you say, I am not well. Did you read the book I wrote? I haven't read it, but it's very substandard. What do you mean it's substandard? Go, I do not talk to you. I identify myself with my intellect and my book and say, I am not well because my book is being criticized. So the I identifies itself with the body, with the senses. Some people feel very elated because they have beautiful pairs of eyes. They have beautiful black hair. You identify yourself with the hair. Identify with the eyes. They keep on looking at the mirror at the various things they... So using the I is the hair. I is the I. I is my body. I is my mind. I is my intellect. Keep on identifying this I because it's called the locus of I. You know the locus, scientists you will know. What is the locus of I? Where is I situated now at the moment? I could be in the body, I could be in the senses, I could be in the mind, I could be in the intellect. I could be anywhere shifting positions. What is the real locus of this I? The search for this is the science of the inner man. You search for this I, because you can't wish away this question, because that is a vital question as long as you are alive. When I feel I exist, I have to find out what is this I. So the human personality has been divided into so many layers. You can see for yourself, I have this body present before you, with 85 kilos of flesh and bones. But this is not everything of me. Then I have something which is called the prana, which feels hungry, which feels thirsty. So then beyond this there is something which is called the mind, which goes on thinking about so many things. It is confused, it wants to do this, to do or not to do, to be or not to be, oscillating between the pace of opposites, not being able to decide. Suddenly some other faculty comes and says, do this. There is a beautiful lecture this evening, the Vivekananda Study Circle. Would you go? I have not decided. I may go, I may not go. You are not able to decide. That's the mind. Suddenly you decide, come, let me go. So tomorrow, day after also you should come. That's the signal. Because the first day many people are present, the second day they vanish. Like post-lunch sessions in seminars. Inaugural session, the house is full. And slowly they start slipping away. Many people standing at the corner and suspicious, they slip away also. So we say, please come and sit here. Not because you will have pain in the legs, lest you slip away. So, it's very important for you to know what is this I which is constantly moving from position to position. The deciding factor is of the intellect, which is called the Vijnana. The various technical terms are used. The Annamaya, which is the physical body, the Pranamaya, which is the vital body, and the Manomaya, which is the mind, oscillating between the pairs of opposites, thesis and antithesis, coming to a synthesis, again splitting up into thesis and antithesis, the famous dialectical process of Hegel and Marx. Then you go to a deciding factor called the Vijnanamaya. You decide, yes, I will do this. Then lastly, when all the faculties are lulled and quelled, you lapse into sleep, in which, what is your experience in sleep? All of you sleep well, I suppose. It's most important to sleep well. In India, we are all blessed that we can sleep without any external sleeping aids. Swami Ranganathananji of revered memory once was addressing a huge audience in the West. Somebody got up and started criticizing India. Oh, you talk big about India and the spiritual glory. Swami, I saw in India, people are sleeping in the pavements. So poor they are. They said, that is our glory. What is the glory? Then they said, how many people are present here? 2,000 people. Whosoever of you can sleep without a sleeping pill, please raise your hands. Only one hand was raised. That is our glory. We can sleep on the pavements without sleeping pills. We are absolutely relaxed. We are satisfied with what we get, but the downside of it, we have no ambition to develop. Swami Vivekananda wanted to combine both. You should have ambition to develop, but don't be over-ambitious. You have all the strengths of mind and the spirit to develop yourself. But at the same time, don't be greedy. As Mahatma Gandhi famously said, nature has so much for man's need, but not so much for man's greed. So in India, we have been trained from childhood. Be satisfied with what you have and be peaceful, be harmonious. So in sleep, what is your experience? We have two experiences, which is very simple if you analyze your experience. One is the experience of not knowing anything. I slept so well, I did not know anything. And I was very happy. The experience of joy. Sukham asvapsam nakinchad avedisham. This is a statement by Vedanta. So when you were not there, how is it that you are most happy? Which means there is a state of consciousness in which the greatest happiness comes when the I is suspended. This is the realization. This is the analysis of your experience. When the I is suspended, you feel most happy. It is the I which creates all the trouble. So if the I can be suspended if you feel so happy in sleep, why not destroy the I completely? If it is annihilated, then you get so much of joy. All of us will feel terribly scared if the I goes away. But I am going to go, I am going to die. What's going to happen to me? So Swami Vivekananda is very fond of taunting these Western people by saying, you Westerners are so terribly afraid of losing your individuality. But you are not individuals yet. You will be when you become universal. I'll end with a story in Vivekananda's life. Emma Calvé was a great opera singer in Paris. A great celebrity at that time. As most celebrities are, she was the most unhappy woman. Celebrities are always unhappy. They carry a big baggage of sorrow within, unable to communicate to anybody. If a great celebrity sheds a tear, the big news is buzz, breaking news, so and so cried. They can't share it. They become so lonely, so absolutely downcast many times. Who do they share with? So this woman was so desperate, so unhappy, she thought there's no point in living anymore. Somebody told her, there's a great Indian yogi in Paris. He has helped so many people, you can go and meet him. An appointment, she came to meet Swami Vivekananda in Paris. She entered the room, the study room where Vivekananda was reading something or studying something. Swami Vivekananda did not even look up. She said, oh my child, what a terrible atmosphere you have brought with you. Calm down, sit down. She sat down. Vivekananda looked at her and started talking about some of the innermost secrets of her life which she had not shared with her most intimate relatives or friends. She became confused, flabbergasted, terrified, frightened. Swami, how did you know all this? Did anybody talk to you about me? Vivekananda smiled and said, is it necessary? I can read you like an open book. Then gave her a spiritual impulse by saying, don't worry about a little life. You are not a little human being. You are that vast, infinite ocean of consciousness. Participate in the larger life and swim in the current of the universal consciousness. Be in tune with the infinite and so on. But the spiritual impulse of the great man went so deep into her, she started crying profusely. Something was shaken within her. She said, Swami, what are you doing to me? You are shattering me. I am going to lose my individuality. Then Swami Vivekananda smiled and told her the story. There was a water drop which was falling into the ocean. The water drop was crying, oh, I am going to lose my individuality. And the ocean said, why are you crying? I was a drop and now I become one with the ocean. I lose myself totally. My individuality as a drop. The ocean smiled and said, my child, you are not going to lose your individuality as the water drop. You are going to regain your individuality as the ocean. You were the ocean. You remember, my child, you are me. The rays of the sun took you far away. And for a moment you thought you are cut away from me. For a moment you thought you are a little tiny individual drop. Now you are coming back to my bosom to join your millions and billions and trillions of brothers and sisters who are water drops like you. Come to my bosom and enjoy the universal consciousness presence. This is Swami Vivekananda. So the science of the inner spirit is the presence of the universal spirit. You can do it now. And Swami Vivekananda said, one simple way of doing this is to feel the presence of the universal consciousness everywhere and through selfless service to reach out to everybody. This feeling of the universal consciousness is at the source of science, is the source of technology, source of all that is noble in human pursuit. The famous statement of Einstein comes to my mind. Einstein is our hero. He said, My religion consists of a humble adoration of an illimitable intelligence which our dull faculties can comprehend only in the primitive form. And he also said, the most sublime and the most profound sensation one can feel is the sensation of the mystical and the religious. It is truly the soul of all science. He who is a stranger to this emotion is as good as dead. To know what is impenetrable to really exist, manifesting itself with the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties can comprehend only in the most primitive form. This feeling is at the center of all religiousness. This cosmic, mystical and religious consciousness is truly the mainspring of all scientific research. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was a very heavy but very beautiful speech you had delivered. It's unfortunate we couldn't have you here maybe for 3 or 4 more hours, but maybe this is all we can digest for now. The floor is now open for questions. Our volunteers will pass the mics around, and if you have any questions, you may ask Maharaj directly.
I need the badge.
Anyone who has a question may either raise their hand.
Who will bowl the first ball? That is the. Usually spinners don't bowl first, pacers bowl.
Maharaj.
No, I'm expecting googlies and bouncers and Muralidhar and Zusras.
Maharaj, I have a question if I may start.
Yeah. Because you are the nearest to me.
Maharaj, when you speak of the science or of even knowing the inner man, it involves a lot of questions, asking oneself, introspecting, and thing is, questions are usually in words and then they follow a sort of logic. So if you want to be logically correct, you ask yourself questions, but then usually they may not be very emotionally coherent. They may all involve very different emotions, and what exactly will be the right way to introspect? Because if you keep on just going by logic or thinking of the right way, you get very conflicting emotions in yourself. So what is the right way to introspect?
See, there is no right way or wrong way. We should have your way, that's all. So, what is logical for you may not be logical for somebody else. So, in this context, there's a beautiful anecdote, which is the epilogue, not the epilogue, the prologue of the famous first book written by Roger Penrose, The Emperor's New Mind. Well, most of you must have seen that book. So, in that book, he is arguing against artificial intelligence. Whether the human mind thinks logically, algorithmically, whether the human brain is only programmed like a computer, or is something more to the human mind. So many people say the human mind computers can exactly do the function of a human brain. The whole thing is only algorithmistic. The story is, there is a super computer which has been invented. The inventor of this, the scientist, or the inventor of this, with great pride is displaying of this supercomputer, is going to be inaugurated. The President of the United States and so many scientists are present. He says, now gentlemen, you are the presence of universal omniscience. The supercomputer is going to be inaugurated. Who will put the first question? Nobody dared to open the mouth, lest he or she appears stupid before great omniscience. But a small boy gets up and says, sir, I will put the first question, sir. Come on, kid, after all, he's a kid, he can go. He said, my question to the computer is, how does it feel to be a computer? So the buttons were on and so many lights started blinking for an hour or two, and nothing happened. And finally he said, I don't know. It's a big roar of laughter everywhere. The computer does all that without knowing it is doing all this. That is the difference between the human mind and the computer. The self-awareness about which I talked. The awareness of oneself that I am doing all this. There are two things. One is to do something, to feel something, and the other is to be aware that you are doing it and feeling it. Only the human mind can do that. And therefore, the way to question, the way to introspect, the way to probe is turn your eyes and the mind and the senses inward for a moment. And then any reaction that happens within your mind to the external impulse, catch that and dissect and find out like a scientist. See, we know ourselves from our reactions. I meditate, I'm very calm, and in the temple and in the prayer hall and the meditation hall, I'm a picture of tranquility. The moment I come out, somebody says something to me, and then I face a difficult situation, immediately I erupt and I shout. So the external impulse experience which I have triggers something in me by way of reaction that needs to be clearly, mercilessly analyzed. So which means, analyze your daily experience. This is exactly what the Rishis did. Some of the greatest Upanishads, for example, the Kena Upanishad, you know what it begins with? How is it that I see when I open my eyes? How is it that I hear through the ears? Unfortunately, the ears can't close. They always wish. God has been very partial to human beings, to animals. They can close their ears if they don't want to hear anything. But if you come to me, I don't want to look at you, I can close my eyes. I don't want to listen to you, I can close my ears. So the Upanishad Rishis ask the question, how is it that I'm able to hear? How is it that I'm able to see? How is it the mind is able to function and sing? Kena ishtam padati preshitam mana kena prana pratama priti yukta kena ishtam machamimam badanti chakshu shrotram kava devo yunakti. This may appear to be very silly questions, but the profound answers to very simple, stupid, silly questions constitutes the body of human knowledge. This is not my statement. Einstein said that. He was asked the question, how is it that I came upon this extraordinary theory of relativity? He smiled and said, you see, when we are children, we ask very stupid questions about parents and the elders. They say, keep quiet, you will know when you grow up. That means you will not ask this question because you will become foolishly wiser. When you are educated, many other questions we simply bury. In my case, I kept on asking these questions and the answer was the theory of relativity. So ask simple questions of your daily experience. You have an experience. Suddenly you feel an emotion of great hatred to somebody. Don't justify yourself by saying, oh, it is quite natural I feel that way because he irritated me. Nothing is natural. We have been born to conquer nature. We have been born to become supernatural and not unnatural, but go beyond nature. We justify ourselves by saying, it is quite natural that I get irritated. It is quite natural I feel unhappy about it. Nothing natural. You have to become superhuman beings. Swami just said, not superhuman, super divine beings. For which you should mercilessly analyze yourself and get to the source of where it comes from. Then you always find it comes from the I. The ego, which always wants to cling on, it doesn't want to die. If you catch it, then it goes somewhere else. So the way to introspect is constantly analyze your reaction to external situations. Start with that. After some time you get into a habit, the moments of emotion rises to the bottom of your consciousness, immediately you will know.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, Swamiji.
Yes, please.
You posed a very important question to the audience today. You asked, who am I? The question which Descartes also posed at the birth of enlightenment in Europe. And the conclusion at which Descartes arrived then was that the I is nothing but the thinking thing. I think, therefore I exist. So, in saying that, Descartes separated cognizance from the neurons which think. So he said cognizance or cognition is something completely independent of our brain. So my question is, can we really accept this statement that that cognition has an independent existence, our thoughts have an independent existence from our brain? And is there any reality beyond neurological depths of a human being?
There are two different models. The purely behavioral scientists, as we call them, they swear there is nothing beyond the brain. The mind or the consciousness which you talk about is only what they call the epiphenomenon of the brain, certain chemical reactions which occur in the brain. And particularly in the Western philosophy, they always mix up life and consciousness. What we call life is not exactly consciousness which Indian Vedanta talks about. We say in Vedanta, in the Indian thinking, that the life and consciousness are two different things. Life is prana and consciousness is chaitanya. Now the question is everything is absolutely only chemical reaction? Then how is it that the three states of consciousness you spoke about, the waking, dream and deep sleep, there's a continuity of the feeling of the I everywhere. I feel that there is something which is abiding in me, and this I, the feeling of I never leaves me. So you may simply say that is only a product of the neurons, product of the brain and so on. But when the brain function stops during deep sleep, we do not know whether it works. You may come and argue, no, it is functioning, the EEG results show me that. The EEG results you are able to see only after waking up. You don't see the EEG results when you are asleep. So some outsider says that your brain was functioning when you were asleep. But what was my experience? I had no experience at all. So even when I was not having any experience at that time of the functioning of the brain or the prana or the lungs or the heart, there is a feeling of I which comes to me when I come back to waking state and say, I slept well. So these are the certain fundamental things which you can't really explain unless you accept the idea that some consciousness which is apart from the brain, and brain is only a field of manifestation. You look at this light burning there. This electricity manifests as this bright light, and electricity is manifesting as this air-conditioned the refrigerator, and electricity is manifesting in the fan somewhere else. It is the same electricity, but the field of manifestation of the electricity is different in different places, and according to the choice of the equipment, the manifestation and the functioning of electricity is different. See, in the brain it functions in one way, in the heart it functions in another way. So you do not say brain itself is per se consciousness. It's manifestation in which it happens. How is it when you have dementia? Suppose you face dementia. You forget everything, your memory goes away. How do you explain the presence of consciousness there? Then are you dead? You are alive, very much. So these are certain questions which can't be really answered. Secondly, my response to your question will be, remember, these mysteries can't be so simplistically answered. Every human mind makes a certain model or a theory. That theory may be satisfactory to somebody. As long as he or she is satisfied, let him go ahead. And some other theory may satisfy somebody else. Even within Indian philosophy, Indian science of the inner man, as we call it, there are hundreds of theories of consciousness. There are so many schools of people have said this, just like in science. Don't ask which is the truth about it. There is nothing called the truth about anything, even in science. How many models are in the creation of the universe? How many models are even about the nucleus? How does nucleus look like? You have the nuclear model of the liquid drop model, you have the shell model, you have a unified model. Then if you ask, what is the truth about the nucleus? There is no truth about it the way you look at it. One particular model satisfies certain experiments, some other model satisfies some other experiments, and you go on. And don't say this is the truth about the universe. And as you grow in knowledge, if this particular theory doesn't satisfy, you should have the boldness to reject this theory and add on and move on to some other theory. Just like they say, the corridor of science is littered with the skeletons of discarded theories. As you move along the corridor of science, that's a skeleton there. What is that? Oh, that is Newton's laws. Then you move along. No, this is something else. That is the boldness of the human mind. Don't ask which is the truth about it. Is this acceptable? Is this true? If you find it acceptable and satisfactory, go ahead. Provided you are a seeker of truth. Don't say this is acceptable and stay put there. Suppose somebody else comes into some other theory and opposes this, don't say, oh, I don't accept this. You should have the openness to keep moving. And therefore, the human mind, as long as it exists, will keep on questioning about the inner and outer universe, coming out with so many models and theories, and keep moving. And only when you become the truth itself, you will know what the truth itself is. When you become it, you will not come back and say what it is. See, Ramakrishna, who was absolutely illiterate in that sense, gave a beautiful example. A doll made of salt, a salt doll, went to measure the depth of the ocean. With a big scale it went. What happened you will know. The moment it entered the ocean, it melted away into the ocean. Who will come and say what is the depth of the ocean? So has the salt doll known the ocean or no? It has known the ocean in a sense because it is there. It has not known the ocean because it is not separate from the ocean. So there is knowing has two aspects. One is knowing as an object, the other is knowing by becoming. So unless you become the truth, you can't really know what it is. But if you become it, you can tell it out. So all of us having the seminars and talks, when we keep on talking, we are creating so many models according to my mind, according to your mind, and so on. All of them are only partial visions of the truth according to my own understanding at the present moment. The twist Ramakrishna gave a wonderful example. Several blind people went to see the elephant. They can't see. Somebody touched the elephant. Ah, you have discovered the elephant, what it is like. It is like a huge pipe. It touched the tusk of the elephant. Then somebody touched the ear. Oh, it is a huge fan. Somebody touched the tail. Oh, it is like a brush. Somebody touched the leg. Oh, it is a big pillar. Big coral ensued. He said, I know it is a pillar. I have seen it as this. Then the person with the eyes came along. What are you calling about? You say it's a fan? You are right. You say it's a pillar? You are right. You know the story of you are right? There's a footnote. There's a professor. Swami Sahanandaji was very fond of this story. There's a professor who kept on saying, you are right, you are right. So one student came and said, sir, I think this is the... Yes, you are right. Next day somebody else came, just the opposite. He said, sir, that fellow came and said he accepted it, but I know this is only right. Yes, you are right. Then his wife was looking along and she was irritated. He said, what, professor? You say you are right, and then you have no consistency. You say, you are right, and you are also right. Then he said, you are also right. So Ramakrishna said, this man with a vision, he came and said, you say it is like a fan? Yes, you are right. You say it's like a pillar? Yes, you are right. Each one is equally right, but not fully right. So Ramakrishna says, you can have partial views of the reality according to your understanding. The theory of relativity says, the frame of reference in which you measure the reality conditions your measurement. And therefore you know it like this. Which is the correct frame? Einstein says, don't ask this question. The fundamental essence of relativity is, there is no correctness or rightness in frames of reference. Nature treats all the frames impartially. Every frame is as right as any other frame. There is a beautiful old book by Arthur Eddington called The Nature of the Physical World. Those of you who are not reading, young boys, please read. Girls also, of course. He says, we have a label in your head. There are so many frames. You want to affix this label to the right frame. You go on looking around and you can't find the right frame. Look at the label, it's a blank label. The rightness with regard to frames of reference is a blank label. So when you come to the truth, the mystery of the universe, the mystery of creation, the mystery of yourself, so many different theories and models are thrown up. So much of quarrel between one theory and another theory. Little knowing each is an impartial view of the reality which may satisfy that particular group. Why not? Keep it. That's what Ramakrishna said. So much of liquor is there in the shop, but this much of liquor simply intoxicates you. Take that and be satisfied. And he also gave a beautiful example. A person went to a mango grove to eat mangoes. He was so fascinated with the mangoes, beautiful fruits, and Then said, oh, so many mangoes. Let me count how many mangoes are here. Went on counting. Says, how many trees are here? Went on counting. How many leaves are there? He could not eat the mangoes. So Ramakrishna said, you have come to eat the mangoes. Why do you fight about all this? You take any theory which satisfies you. If this particular Western theory which says brain alone is enough, if it satisfies you and you are fully happy about that theory and gives fulfillment and richness in your life, please go ahead. But remember, this materialist theory cannot give you fulfillment. That's the problem. Because it's going to vanish after some time. Any materialistic tendency is going to be impermanent. In impermanence cannot give you eternal satisfaction. Because it's changing continuously. If everything is continuously changing, you can't be happy about it. You know the story of Professor Wiener? Professor Wiener was a great mathematician. It's a real story. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology. A very great mathematician. But he used to be very forgetful. The moment the mathematics seizes him, he used to forget everything. So once they changed the houses, his wife told him, Professor Wiener, please remember we have moved to a new house. This is the new address, this is the new telephone number. Don't go to the old house by mistake. No, I will remember, don't worry. He put the piece of paper in his pocket. The moment he went to his office, suddenly a bright idea came to him in mathematics. He was looking frantically for a piece of paper, took out that paper, scribbled something for a long time, and finally disappointed, oh, this method will not work. Put it in the dustbin. At the end of the day, he went back to the old home. Suddenly, oh, my wife told me, oh, where is the new place? Paper gone. So looking around, a bright idea came to him. Professor Wiener is so famous, everybody will know where he has moved. A small girl was standing there. Said, Kate, my dear, can you tell me where Professor Wiener has moved? Then she smiled and said, Dad, Mom kept me here to tell you this. She knew no second. Professor Wiener's daughter was interviewed later on, they heard. And then, is this true? She blushed and said, no, this is an exaggerated story. There's some truth in it, of course. Dad was not that bad and so on. So if everything keeps moving all the time, you go back to your room, and say, my room was here, what happened in the Kaveri hostel? Oh, that room was moved to Ganga hostel. Where is the certainty about life? In life, if everything is changing in life, life will lose its meaning. Of course you say, I will lead a meaningless life. Please go ahead, I am not going to lead that life. Everybody wants some meaning in life. To find meaning in life, you need something which is unchanged. Your brain is constantly changing, your neurons are changing. Every cell is dying every moment. I can't bank on my brain. So I have to depend on something which is not changing. So Ramakrishna gave a beautiful story, very telling story. Suppose somebody tells you, oh, you are running a big institute. I am going to give you a lot of donation money. Please come to my office. I go to his office, he takes his checkbook and then writes 0, 0, 0, 0. After 5 zeros, I get irritated. What? You are kidding with me? Then he smiles and puts 1 before. Sir, I had some more zeros. All the zeros added to 0, but the 1 before the 0 gives value to all the zeros. The 1 is unchanging, eternal substance. All the change is revolving around it. If somebody doesn't like that 1, we leave with zeros, we don't mind. But a time will come, you have to awaken to this idea that there is an unchanging essence amidst all this change. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tam atmastham yena vashyante dhiras tesham shanti shashvati naitadesham. Only that person who can find the unchanging essence in all the change, he alone realizes in his own inner self. He alone gets peace, he alone gets joy, none else, none else, none else. If somebody can get joy in something else, please go ahead. But a time will come, you'll awaken to the fact, this has slipped away from your hands. This has gone away. This is changing. This is destroyed. You can't bank yourself on something which is changing. This is the story of a drunkard who wanted some money from somebody as loan. He went to a shop, gave us 1,000 rupees as loan. Then I said, all right, give. Then he went on distributing this money to many people. Somebody said, can you give me 500? I heard you got 1,000 rupees. Which is your shop? You fellow, you will not return it, I know, I will not give it to you. No, definitely I will return, don't worry. Come after 3 days, I will return it to you. After 3 days, he goes to your shop, return that money to me. I never took money. I knew that you will cheat me. But no, showed it because you were drunk. So how did the big quarrel people came? How do you know that this is the shop? See, a bull was sitting in front of that shop. I noticed that is the shop where a bull was sitting. But the bull went and sat somewhere else. So if you're shifting of goals, as Swami Gautama said, if your goal is constantly shifting, your life has no meaning. One fixed goal called the Dhruvadara, the pole star, and around which the whole life will be revolving. You fix it. Maybe money, it may be position, it may be fame, it may be anything. But remember, if that goal constantly keeps changing, life will lose its meaning. So the neuron business, if that theory satisfies you, please go ahead. But your neurons are going to decay after some time. Beware of that.
As we are running out of time, we'll take at most only 2 questions.
My question is how to strike the balance among emotions. I mean, I had been introspecting a little, not to be very high, but I found that was the only thing which was responsible for my joy, success, failure and misery. So could you please?
It's a very interesting, important question. You know, Sister Nivedita, one of the chief most disciples of Swami Vivekananda, who interpreted Vivekananda for us in many ways, she writes about education, Indian education. Unfortunately, the Indian education system does not help the student to control, regulate, understand emotions. We cultivate intellect. Emotion is such an important, rich component in a man's life. One simple way we can suggest to my young friend is, when emotions come, bear them. The idea of forbearance. India, this has been inculcated, called titiksha. Many things go wrong. The world is not going to function according to what you want it to function. I have some idea, this has to happen this way, the way does not happen that way. The moment you open the newspapers and television, that is a different story. In your own personal life, many things will not go in the way you want it to go. So immediately you react, you become unhappy, you become happy, and so on. Remember, the world refuses to be cast in the individual's pattern. You cast the whole world in my pattern, it can't happen. That helps you to become free. So you know, I can't bear that fellow. That fellow is irritating me, etc., etc. There's a story about a young monk who wrote a very senior monk. And said, Swami, I can't bear this anymore. I can't tolerate this man, and so on. In reply, that old senior monk just wrote one line. Remember, my young friend, others are also tolerating you. I can't tolerate it, but people are tolerating me. If I am being tolerated by others, why should I not tolerate them? That means we want the world to go in our own way, therefore emotional outbursts come. One thing is titiksha, sahan shakti. Second is santosha. Be content with what you get. We always make a list of what we don't have. I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have that. But have we ever thought of the list of what we do have? What God has provided to us? What is the first great gift that if you don't like the word God, please substitute it by nature. If you don't like nature, I have nothing to do, because we are in nature all the time. Nature has given us, what is the greatest gift, you tell me? This human body. What an extraordinary gift God has given us. We have been born without any deformity, without any disability, with 2 pairs of good eyes, with reasonably sane mind, not very sane, but reasonably sane. And with rich emotions, we are able to digest the food which we are eating, we are able to walk around peacefully and happily. Is it not the greatest gift? How many people are suffering without this? And the sun, the sunlight and the moonlight and the air and so many facilities God has given us. Why not be satisfied with God has given us? Rather than making a list of what God has not given us. And another the great defect of the human mind is we always try to find out, pick out the faults and difficulties of and defects of others. This fellow is like that fellow is like that. We have not incarnated into the world, please remember, to be a self-appointed moral police and the judge of the entire universe, to catch the defects of others and make an encyclopedia and a dictionary and publish a book. We have not been born with that. No, life will go on like that. You will try to, as much as possible. So, Swami, Sri Sarada Devi, the holy spouse of Ramakrishna, said in Bengal, is a beautiful statement. Santosher matan dharme, shocher matan argun. There is no great virtue than forbearance, and there is no great wealth than contentment and satisfaction. Be content with what you have. You may be ambitious, you may try, but what you have, be grateful to somebody else. The idea of gratefulness is a great sobering effect in emotions. That's why in the West they always teach children. Somebody gives, say thank you, be grateful to what you get. A servant or a person, and the whole universe, for example, is giving so much to you. I should be grateful and give back to the universe and the world as much as I have taken. Einstein very beautifully said, there's a beautiful book by Einstein, Ideas and Opinions. Read that book, page 9. It says, 100 times a day I remind myself that my inner and outer life depends on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I should give in the same measure which I have received and I am still receiving. When you go to the canteen, when you go to the dining hall, when the cook comes and serves you hot food, why don't you raise your heart in prayer and say, oh Lord, thanks. Why don't you smile at him and say, oh, what a beautiful food you have served for me. How many hundreds of people have struggled for how many years and days to give you that hot food? Right from the person who has been harvesting in the field to the person who is actually cooking the food and giving it to you, how many millions of sacrifices people have gone through, invisible faces who do not know, who may not see. Raise your heart in prayer. Oh Lord, thanks. That is prayer, that is meditation, that is religion. So if your heart is full of gratefulness for all that you are receiving, and you will be receiving, you have received, and you forbear and forbear, be content with what you have received, your emotions will be rich, and you have a smile on your face. A person with a smiling face is the greatest asset of humanity. Swami Vivekananda said, on days in which you frown at others and you are depressed, don't come out and show your ugly face to anybody. Close in, stay indoors. You have no right to show depression to others and depression. Read Dale Carnegie's book. Smile, there is a chapter there, smile. Is this last one?
Yes, last one.
Swami, let me
We
just.
have the privilege of bowling the last ball. You know, sloggers are the most dangerous.
Just a little bit about how this question came about. I was just thinking, as you were speaking, the goal of Hinduism is to attain salvation, that is to get out from the cycle of birth and death. Now, just like how by doing bad things you incur papa, by doing good things you also incur punya. So if you were doing a lot of punya, wouldn't you be getting again into the cycle of life and birth? But then something occurred to me that it is part of your duty, and by discharging your duty you incur no sin or benefit. So my question is this: if service is a duty, and if you are all incurring sin by just sitting idle without doing anything, how do you quantify the amount of service to be done? Do you wait for somebody to come and ask you, or do you look around and offer service, or do you go asking from person to person if he needs help?
See, service is not a duty. Service is a way of life which you will be compelled to do by nature. Because you are receiving, you have to give back. It is not that somebody will tell you that you go and do this. And so you quantify and saying, I have received so much, I have to give back so much. See, you are constantly receiving from nature, receiving from everybody, receiving inputs from teachers through knowledge, receiving water from the river, receiving sunlight from the sun. Every moment your life is constantly receiving, and if you don't complete the circuit of giving, then it will stagnate. So this is what the Gita calls the yajna. Yajna means you receive and you give back. And a person who receives does not give back, and who serves what he receives and then puts it in his pocket or in his bank, India or abroad, he is called a thief. That is the statement in the Gita. So it is not a duty, it is a way of life, it is a natural law that you have to receive to complete the circuit. So electricity flows, positive, negative, means electrons flow the opposite direction. That means it has to complete the circuit. The circuit is not complete, then you are going against the law of nature itself. And if you say that I will go against the laws of nature, please go ahead, but nature will give you tight slaps on your cheek and make you mend your ways. Swami Vivekananda said, you know what he said? Nature will force you to give. Man wants to hold with clenched fists, but nature will put her hands upon his throat and make the fists open. So give gladly, give willingly. If you don't give gladly or willingly, nature will give you tight slaps. People are getting so much sorrow, people are getting depressed, people are feeling unhappy because they don't want to give. I want to hold, no, this is mine. Nature says, no, I have given it to you to be shared with others. Sharing is the fundamental law of nature. It is not religious, it is not metaphysical, it is not philosophical. It is a simple scientific truth about nature. You receive and you give back, you receive and give back. The cycle has to be completed. If you refuse to participate in the cycle, nature will force you into the cycle or simply throw you out as an insane person. This is the Gita teaching. You have to participate. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvarteti haya aghayu indriyaramo moham parthasi jivati. That person lives in vain. In fact, he says, he only eats sin. Agham papa yobhukte stena eva, etc. The idea is, you have been born as a human being, fortunately or unfortunately. The most unfortunate thing about it, we have been born. Nothing can be done about it. But one thing you can do is, Vedanta says, live in such a way that it will not be born. Because the fundamental problem is this human birth. But the greatest asset is also human birth. You have got this birth, been exposed to so many things. Live in such a way that you will be a blessing to humanity and yours. That's why Swami Vivekananda said, the prince he wrote, my dear prince, this life is short. The vanities of the world are transient. But they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. So much of riches nature has given you. Your parents have given you. Society has given you. And you should give it back. It was in Madras that he said, the Centenary Hall, where the Senate Hall, where the convocation is being held in the Madras University, it just overlooks the sea. Swami, with tremendous indignation and anger, he said, is there not water enough in the sea to drown you, your clowns, your diplomas and your certificates and all that? Go and drown there. As long as millions live in poverty and hunger, I hold every educated man a traitor who, having been educated at the expense of these poor masses, pays not the least heed to them. The education that they are getting in IIT, I call upon these IITians. How much of money do you pay and how much of money is required to educate each one of you? Find out. You make a quick calculation. Where does that money come from? From the government? From the common man? The taxes of the common man? The person who is cutting the grass there? The person who is shaving somebody's head? The person who is sweeping the floor? Who could not get this kind of education? Although, perhaps, he or she has greater intelligence than you have. Who pays? You don't at least have this feeling. Oh, I got such a powerful, great education from this institute. This comes from so many people. Have a word of prayer, a word of smile. Try to do. If you don't do it, nature will force you to do it. Don't wait till nature teaches you through slaps. Nature will teach you. But it is good to awaken before the shock treatment of nature begins. If some people say, no, I don't care, I'll be selfish, then the shock treatment of nature will ask, shall I begin the shock treatment or will you mend your bills? No, I will not mend. Come on, begin shock treatment. Then you cry and cry. That's what happens everywhere. Educated, intelligent people hanging themselves to death. What happens? Because they have not shared with anybody. So much lonely. They can't give love. They can't give affection. They can't give service. You live by yourself. then you will simply stagnate and wither away. If somebody wants to stagnate and wither away, please go ahead. But I wouldn't like to do that. The call of Vedanta is, come on, expand. Beautiful river of life is flowing. Come on, flow with that river. If somebody claims that stagnation is very scientific and that's the most natural thing to do, please go ahead. But I wouldn't swim with you.